I'm acutely aware I'm standing between you and lunch, probably, and we're running a little bit behind. So I will try and whiz this as quickly as possible. I said to Tim earlier, this is probably going to be the least technically in-depth presentation you'll get in this stream today. But what I want to talk a little bit about is what we're doing in the UK from a CAM perspective, a connected automated mobility, particularly focusing on CAM Testbed UK, which is a collection of test facilities which are part funded by government, part funded by industry, and some of the projects that we're looking at specifically focusing on simulation. And David Webb and I were whispering to each other across the last 2 or 3 presentations saying, oh, that's really interesting, we talked to them about that. And there's lots of crossovers, so hopefully what we've got is on the right kind of track. A little bit about Zenzik, just very briefly, if you don't already know who we are. So we're an organisation who are funded, again, part by government and part by industry, set up 4 or 5 years ago now to support CAM Testbed UK as a mechanism for government to establish these world-leading test facilities which would really drive the UK as a destination, as a place to come to carry out R&D and test and development activities. And when we look at the global market for CAM, how can we make the UK a destination in that sense? And Zenzik's role is to support CAM Testbed UK, which I'll talk about in a second, but also to promote the UK as a place to come and drive collaboration. So any of the conversations we've been having today, anything that, introductions and various things in this sector that you're interested in, we are more than happy to support those conversations. So CAM Testbed UK, as I've mentioned, was established, it was a twinkle in government's eyes 5 or 6 years ago, and Michael Talbot, a colleague of David's in CCAV, established this concept that says the UK has a real opportunity, both because we have a strength in depth and because there is a market need to establish some world-class testing facilities that go beyond traditional automotive proving grounds and traditional automotive testing into the new spaces around connectivity and autonomy. And over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been investing in and establishing 6 test beds around the UK, primarily in what we call the rectangle, which is the I get this right, M1, M40 corridor between Birmingham and London, and broadly is establishing test facilities which cover both private grounds, so traditional proving grounds, the likes of UTAC, formerly Millbrook, Hariba, Myra, and others, as well then as some public test beds in the West Midlands. So Midlands Future Mobility is a test proving ground there that's on public roads, covers rural roads, it covers urban and interurban and motorways, and an equivalent down in London called the Smart Mobility Living Lab. So we have a collection of these facilities, physical facilities, which allows you, and some of the previous speakers were talking about the need to progress through from lab testing to simulation to on-road. And what CAM Testbed UK does is allow that to happen by providing complementary capabilities that cover all of those different areas. One of the projects, one of the test facilities we have is called Convex, which is the first step into the digital space. It's very much around data sharing and driving connectivity as well as the autonomy aspects. Now, CAM Testbed UK is 6 different organisations, each independent from each other. But one of the things that we're driving, or one of the things that we're seeing on a global stage as being quite unique, is that CAM Testbed UK, by working together, by being interoperable, by being complementary, yet still retaining some competitiveness between them, is we're driving something that's quite unique on the global stage. What we're seeing is that each of those individual test facilities and each of those sets of capabilities on their own don't solve all the questions that we have and all of the challenges about the millions and the billions of miles and all of the complex edge cases and corner cases that we've heard so much about today. But if we can bring them together, if we can make them interoperable, if we can make it such that a customer can come to one of the test beds, carry out some early level testing on a private ground, take the learnings, move then into a semi-controlled environment as we have in Culham, around the science park there, graduate then perhaps into some in-depth simulation testing and then out onto the mean streets of London or Birmingham. What we're seeing is that if we can make that a seamless proposition, the UK starts to become a place where the likes of, the Waymos and the big OEMs and the big tier ones who don't naturally do their R&D in the UK, there's a proposition for them to come to us here. A few images of the grounds there. I won't dwell too much on those because it's not really what I want to talk about today. One of the things that we do here at Zenzik with our partners in CAM Testbed UK is to deliver what we call sort of interoperable projects. The idea being, can we get the testbeds to work together on common problems and find common solutions to them? And this year in particular, we've got a number of the projects which we're working on. I'll probably only touch on two of them in the time that we've got left here, but you can see on the screen interoperable simulation. I'll come back to you. That's one I want to dwell on. We have work where we look to establish best practice and a common approach to developing safety cases. So we'll know the code of practice, many of you might know, establishes a very high level set of principles around how you put self-driving vehicles onto the road. The collective best minds of CAM Testbed UK have come together with a safety case framework, which has informed the BSI PAS and other work with our partners that starts to establish a bit more depth about how you might do that, and that's something which you can use as your passport to travel through the testbeds. With projects on cyber resilience, again, how do we ensure that we can meet the requirements that the UNC regulations have recently put out around cyber resilience? How can you demonstrate that you have met those requirements in a legally defensible way, in a way which demonstrates true compliance? And there's lots around that we don't have time to talk about today. Work on projects around consumer safety ratings. So again, how do we start to move things like NCAP and Euro NCAP schemes where they go beyond the regulation and drive up standards through consumer choice? How can we apply those principles into highly automated vehicles, and particularly for the project we have at the moment, using ALKS as a use case for those? V&V through simulation, Siddhartha and Adam were talking about that earlier. Again, a project working through those things around V2X and data services, connectivity. And what I want to sort of focus on first is the Zenzik CAM Scale-Up program. So one of the things we're doing at Zenzik is trying to encourage and foster a really strong UK CAM ecosystem, particularly with startups and SMEs. And there are many accelerator programs and startup programs around, and the question might be, well, Mark, what's so good about your one? Well, I think it's the best, but I might be biased. But what we are looking to do, which is maybe a bit different than some of the others that you may be aware of, is that we're leveraging CAM Testbed UK as part of that value and that benefit. So government and David Webb and the team very kindly provided funding, which we sort of pass through to SMEs. The idea being that buys them access to these great set of capabilities we have in CAM Testbed UK, which accelerates the project, the development of their technologies, products and services out to a late stage TRL, sort of right onto the edge of commercialisation and market readiness. So it's not just cash to go and do some stuff, but it's access to this knowledge, these skills, these capabilities that testbeds have. So we did a very successful round of that last year, and 5 great SMEs that kind of came through the ranks and came through the projects there. Some of them you might be aware of, some maybe are not, but many of them have gone on to have very good and promising conversations with corporates and other investors off the back of this. And so the scale-up program that we have is about accelerating technology through the ecosystem from sort of mid-stage TRL out to that late stage. It's not the early stage elements. One of the things that we're very focused on, and if you were listening, I'm sure you were earlier to David and both Davids in the keynote sessions around the drive from government. It's all about commercialisation. How can we get to the point where we're moving, transitioning from trials and testing into deployment? And that's one of the things that we're doing with this SME program. We've got a second round of that which we're going through at the moment. We had some outstanding applications, and we're going through the process of whittling them down to 5, a kind of similar number of, I'm sure, outstanding SMEs and sort of startups to partner with us again this year and accelerate them through the testbeds. Just very briefly, and the last thing I really wanted to touch on and talk about was our interoperable simulation project. And as I said, I was very interested in the previous 2 speakers, and I think it's really clear that the need for collaboration and the joining together of different bits of systems and tools and technologies really is critical when it comes to having any chance of being able to simulate enough that we can really provide a robust set of evidence and capabilities that we ourselves, as kind of insiders in the development of CAM, have confidence in, but also to provide that both to regulators and to the public. And so one of the things that we've been doing with the project of interoperable simulation, and we're on to our sort of third phase of this that we've been doing over the last couple of years, is to take the premise that CAM Testbed UK and each of those facilities I mentioned before have their own simulation capabilities. If you go just down the road here to WMG, they've got the 3XD simulator. We take a bit further down the road to Harib and Myra, there's capabilities there. SML in London have their own set of capabilities. Each of them able to deliver really strong elements of what we think is a really comprehensive simulation tool chain. But the question is, if you are a customer, and some of sort of the 5 challenges that Ash was laying out just before, around the complexity of integration and the cost of validating models, and if you want to extend the amount of testing you're doing in simulation, you've got to do a bit here, you might need to go over there to do a bit more, and to a third party again to really complete the amount of simulation testing that you want to do. Because we have these 6 parties of CAM Testbed UK who are committed to working together, we've spent the last 2 years trying to establish how we might make the capabilities across those different geographic sites interoperable, such that you could run, and everybody who works in simulations tell me I can't call it a super simulation because it doesn't mean anything, but I'm not an expert, so I'll call it that and beg forgiveness. But a super simulation which allows you to run a more comprehensive test which accesses capabilities, the best in breed, if you like, across all of those test beds. So last year, we ran a proof of concept, and we were able to demonstrate that across a handful of our test beds from London to Birmingham, we were able to, with Street Drone as our kind of use case customer, deliver a test which drew the capabilities across those test beds that you couldn't deliver in any one scenario, in any one facility. Off the back of that, we're now running an extended proof of concept phase this year where we're expanding that. So we're adding in more of our test beds and more of our capabilities into that simulation, and drawing and proving that we can also integrate and make interoperable facilities outside of CAM Testbed UK. So sort of very briefly, what we're looking to do, and as I say, I'm not the technical expert on the simulation side of things, but through our systems integrator CAN Engineering, we have this concept of a middleware or it's based on DDS, but a bus there that allows you to transfer between different elements of hardware in the loop, simulators, driver in the loop, human in the loop, human factors elements, and all sorts of capabilities that we have. We can find standardized ways of transferring information between those simulations such that a customer can access all of those simulation capabilities with one sort of effort of integration. So we're sort of pleased, and I think we're going to sort of officially announce this in a week or so, so you'll pretend I didn't say this, but we're really delighted that we've got Ford as our customer this time round, and working with some of the programs that they've got there to validate some of the work that they're doing through this integrated interoperable simulation, to demonstrate that actually for even some of sort of both the smaller players and the larger players in this space, there is value to accessing a simulation capability which draws on multiple traditional capabilities. So we're wrapping up all sorts of things around the V&V, pre-processing, post-processing, understanding scenario generation, ensuring how you can provide an output which is meaningful, discussions around test oracles, and millions of things that we have no time, because we're all starving for lunch, to talk about now. But it's a piece of work that I think we're really interested in, and I was kind of keenly listening to previous people. And if, as this sort of session has laid out, simulation and those kind of things is of interest to you, we're really interested in understanding what the future of this work is. So we have a stream of work which is looking at what a business case for interoperable simulation can be. How do we make this a long-term sustainable operational part of CAM Testbed UK? How does that fit in with the broader industry, the broader sector, and what other people are doing in simulation? So if any of that is interesting to you, come and talk to me. Nick Reed as well here. He's supporting us on that piece of work, so do come and chat to one of us if you've got an interest in this space, particularly about how we can go beyond a technical proof of concept and say, how can we deliver this as a really compelling customer proposition, not just for ourselves within the UK, but actually because this is a virtual capability, it's very attractive on the global stage. So, I mean, that's just the timeline of the project. This is running out till March this year, so there's a lot to be done. And we're going to be having a big sort of summit showcase event at the end of the year, sort of mid-March, showcasing the outputs of all of our projects across cyber connectivity, safety, simulation. So again, if you're interested, come and see me or sign up on our website. This actually is a slide I think that you will have seen from the keynote session, so I won't dwell on that, but I will end on this point. The UK has a really compelling opportunity to grasp a big part of the global supply chain. We can't suggest that we're going to deliver everything. We don't have either big infrastructure giants or big tech giants based here in the UK, but we do strongly believe that by working together and collaborating, the UK can be a really strong global exporter of technology, of knowledge, of skills, of services, because we have all the components, and what it will take to be competitive is to work together. That's what we kind of strongly believe at Zenzik. You know, we are open to any and all conversations, discussions. If we can help, if you're interested in CamTestBed UK, if you're interested in Interoperable Simulation, do get in touch and let us know. But thank you for hanging in until the death of this morning session. I'll conclude there, and thank you for your time.